Voyager 1 is now a starship.
The space probe launched from Central Florida 36 years ago has made it beyond the solar system, the first human-made object.
Voyager 2 had been silent for so long that many thought of it as a drifting relic, a lonely piece of hardware gliding through the void with only the memory of Earth clinging to its circuitry. And then, without warning, the silence broke. It turned back in a way no one could have predicted, and what it revealed was enough to still the breath of billions. The word "turned" doesn't quite capture it. It was as if the probe itself, after decades of moving outward, had suddenly arrested its eternal flight and drawn its attention inward, casting its sensors and instruments back toward the cradle of humanity, the pale blue dot it had once left behind. That turning was not a maneuver planned or expected. It was not something programmed into its commands. It was, by all technical accounts, impossible. Yet there it was, shifting orientation, altering its gaze, and transmitting data that would bring the world to a halt. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The first signals were dismissed as anomalies, ghost noise from a system older than most of the engineers monitoring it. But the consistency of the stream forced even the most skeptical eyes to linger. Voyager 2 had not only adjusted its trajectory slightly, it had reoriented its instruments as if deliberately choosing to look back. The transmission contained patterns, not random bursts. They were coherent, structured, layered with information so precise and so deliberate that it felt less like a mechanical function and more like intention. What it discovered, what it recorded in that impossible turning, was not simply the electromagnetic murmur of the solar system it had departed. It was something deeper, stranger, and yet undeniably familiar. The data revealed a shimmer that no telescope on Earth had ever captured. It was not the background radiation scientists had cataloged for decades, nor the predictable hum of the sun's activity. Voyager 2 recorded a lattice of resonance surrounding Earth itself, a field that pulsed with rhythms resembling breath, heartbeat, and memory. The implications were staggering. It was as if the planet was alive in ways more literal than poetic. The field stretched far beyond the magnetosphere, echoing like a vast cocoon, and when analyzed, the pulses contained patterns almost biological in their cadence. Earth, long treated as a stage upon which life existed, appeared through Voyager's sensors as life itself. The turning back did more than illuminate this planetary resonance. It captured what could only be described as shadows, immense structures drifting at the edges of perception. They were not asteroids nor comets, nor any known debris of the solar system. They hovered in synchrony with the Earth's orbit, maintaining a delicate distance as though observing. Voyager 2 mapped their movement with precision, showing their slow procession like guardians or witnesses. The scale of them dwarfed comprehension. They were not ships in the conventional sense. They did not shine with metallic surfaces or radiate heat signatures. They were almost transparent, spectral, visible only through the way they bent the resonance field Voyager had uncovered. As the signals poured in, humanity found itself staring into an entirely new paradigm. Voyager 2 was not simply looking back at Earth. It was unveiling layers of reality that had gone unnoticed, as if the very act of leaving the solar system had given it the angle to peer behind the curtain. The probe's instruments seemed to pierce not only space, but also the hidden frequencies in which existence hummed. That sudden glimpse suggested that the cosmos was not empty, but saturated with structure, an architecture of vibrations and presences interwoven with every star and planet. Earth was not isolated in the void. It was entangled. The discovery stopped the world because it upended every framework people had relied upon. Religion, philosophy, science, politics, all of them trembled under the weight of the revelation. Voyager 2 had shown that Earth itself was part of a larger living system, encased in a resonant web that both nurtured and watched. The shimmering lattice was not static either. It responded. As Voyager transmitted signals, the field pulsed back. The delay was measurable, the reply undeniable. Something answered, not in words or recognizable symbols, but in echoes tuned to the probe's broadcast. It was communication at the rawest level, vibration meeting vibration, a dialogue of existence. Engineers who had spent their careers with spacecraft described the moment as unlike anything they had ever experienced. They were trained to measure, to quantify, to interpret. Yet when they watched the resonance pulse in reply to Voyager's transmission, they fell silent. The language of equations seemed insufficient. The field was not a passive environment, but an active interlocutor. It was as though Earth itself had been waiting for the prodigal child to look back, and in that gaze, a conversation was sparked across the abyss. The implications extended beyond Earth. Voyager's sensors, once reoriented, captured threads stretching outward from the lattice, faint trails leading toward other stars. It was as though the resonance of our planet was part of a greater network, a cosmic nervous system linking worlds in ways undreamed of. Each trail shimmered with slight variations, like dialects of the same universal tongue. The thought that every star system might hold its own resonance, its own living field, was both exhilarating and terrifying. Voyager 2 had not only revealed the hidden nature of Earth, it had pointed to the hidden nature of reality itself. The sheer impossibility of the probe's actions fed speculation as much as the data itself. How had Voyager turned back? Who had commanded it? The commands sent from Earth had long since ended, and the onboard systems were incapable of spontaneous reorientation of this scale. Some suggested that the resonance field itself had interacted with the craft, seizing its instruments and aligning them for discovery. If true, it meant that Earth had reached across the void and touched the machine, guiding it as a hand guides a child's chin to look into its eyes. Voyager 2 was no longer simply a messenger of humanity, it had become the messenger of the planet itself. The event was not a spectacle of fire or noise. There were no images of explosions or celestial collisions. What stopped the world was subtler, quieter, yet infinitely more profound. It was the recognition that humanity was not alone, not because of distant aliens or far-off galaxies, but because the very ground beneath their feet was alive, aware, and connected to something vast. The silence that followed the first analysis was unlike any other in history. In homes, laboratories, and streets across the world, people paused, held by the immensity of what Voyager had revealed. It was not fear, not yet, but awe. The kind that sinks deep and lingers, altering the marrow of understanding. Voyager 2's turning back became the most unexpected mirror humanity had ever encountered. It showed that the search for life had never required leaving home. The quest for communication with the cosmos had never been about reaching out, but about recognizing the resonance already enfolding every heartbeat and breath. The spacecraft that had ventured farther than any before had not discovered alien landscapes or distant civilizations as its final act. Instead, it had illuminated the truth that the greatest mystery, the most staggering discovery, had been with us all along. And still the signals continued. Layer upon layer, Voyager transmitted more of the resonance, mapping its contours, charting the shadowed structures, tracing the trails that led outward into the stars. Each transmission carried with it the undeniable impression of dialogue, of exchange. Something had begun that could not be undone. The probe had turned, the world had stopped, and in that stopping, everything known had shifted. The old boundaries of knowledge cracked open like thin ice, revealing depths unimagined beneath. Voyager 2 had turned back, and in doing so, it had shown that the universe was listening, and had been all along. When Voyager 2 turned back, the world thought it had already delivered everything it was capable of. After all, it had been the grand explorer of the outer planets, the machine that gave us the first close-up portraits of Uranus and Neptune, the silent ambassador slipping past the edge of the heliosphere into the territory of interstellar night. It had become, in the public imagination, a fading relic of the space age. Yet the moment it reoriented, the perception shifted instantly. No longer was it just a cold traveler. It became a lens, a channel through which reality itself unveiled its hidden layers. The discovery had the character of revelation rather than observation, not the unveiling of a distant object, but of a structure so intimate it had been beneath our awareness all along. The stream of data clarified in ways no one had anticipated. The resonance Voyager picked up was not uniform. It was patterned with fluctuations that seemed to rise and fall in tandem with collective human activity. Solar storms did not account for these oscillations, nor did the normal interaction of the Earth's magnetosphere with cosmic winds. Instead, the patterns pulsed in time with mass human events, moments of triumph, grief, anticipation, and upheaval. It was as though the lattice surrounding the planet was a mirror that caught and amplified the vibrations of thought, emotion, and collective experience. What Voyager revealed was that the Earth itself was responsive to the consciousness of those inhabiting it. The planet was not only alive but also aware, participating in a constant dialogue with the beings it sustained. This realization fractured the very definition of consciousness. Until then, humanity had assumed awareness to be a phenomenon localized to brains, a fleeting outcome of neural arrangements. Voyager suggested instead that consciousness scaled outward, woven into planetary fields, echoed across space like ripples on an infinite sea. Earth's resonance was not a static hum but a chorus, and every living thing contributed to its timbre. The implication that thoughts and emotions fed into a planetary system of response was almost unbearable in its scope. It meant that the world itself was never silent, that it breathed in the inner lives of its creatures and responded in kind. Voyager had stumbled onto the evidence of a planetary mind. Engineers combed through the raw data, expecting flaws, malfunctions, glitches of aging sensors. But the consistency of the patterns, the way they harmonized with independent terrestrial measurements, left no doubt. Voyager's instruments were functioning perfectly. What had changed was not the probe but the perception it enabled. By turning back, it had given humanity the angle to witness itself refracted through cosmic architecture. The world had become aware of its own echo, its hidden voice laid bare. There was no longer any sharp boundary between the human and the planetary, the biological and the geophysical. The distinctions blurred into a single continuum of resonance. What shook observers most was the sense of attention embedded in the field. It did not behave like an inert structure, simply resonating with whatever touched it. It behaved more like an interlocutor. At times, it appeared to anticipate signals, shifting before Voyager transmitted. At other times, it delayed, as though considering its reply. These subtle pauses and accelerations hinted at something neither mechanical nor random. They suggested intentionality. Whether this was the intention of Earth itself or of some larger system that Earth was nested within was unclear, but the effect was unmistakable. Humanity was no longer gazing into a void of mute space. It was participating in a dialogue older and grander than language itself. The data captured a peculiar phenomenon, an alignment of the resonance field with certain celestial cycles. When the moon passed into syzygy with Earth and the Sun, the field flared with intensity. During eclipses, it resonated with an almost harmonic purity. When major planetary conjunctions occurred, the lattice shimmered with additional layers, as though connecting Earth's voice to a choir of worlds. Voyager's recordings of these fluctuations were undeniable, showing that the resonance was not confined to Earth but part of a larger orchestration. The cosmos was not a silent expanse of drifting matter. It was structured like music, woven from interlocking vibrations. Voyager had become the first instrument to capture that symphony directly. The implications extended into physics in a way that stunned researchers. For centuries, science had been rooted in the assumption of separation. Matter here, energy there, consciousness isolated within biological shells. Voyager undermined that assumption with merciless clarity. The resonance field suggested a unifying substrate, a medium in which matter, energy, and awareness were braided together. The distinction between physics and metaphysics, between the measurable and the experiential, dissolved under the weight of evidence. The universe was not merely governed by laws of mechanics. It was alive with meaning, suffused with intention, responsive in ways that no previous theory had allowed. For the first time, science was forced to contend with the possibility that the cosmos itself was conscious. As Voyager traced the resonance outward, the shadows it mapped became clearer. These were not amorphous blurs, but vast, coherent structures, like limbs or wings of something ungraspable. Their scale dwarfed comprehension, stretching hundreds of thousands of kilometers, and yet their density was so slight that only the resonance revealed them. They moved with deliberation, tracking Earth's orbit as though drawn by magnetism or devotion. They were not random debris nor natural clouds of gas. They appeared synchronized, aligned in formations too precise to be accidents. And as Voyager transmitted, they responded, their outlines shifting subtly, like vast beings adjusting their posture at the edge of sight. Humanity stared into these spectral presences and realized they had always been there, cloaked in the frequencies beyond perception. The world was not alone in space. It had never been alone. The sudden awareness of watchers shattered complacency. Humanity had long debated the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence, waiting for signals from distant stars. Yet Voyager showed that intelligence had been present all along, woven invisibly into the very space through which Earth moved. These presences did not announce themselves with broadcast or visible artifacts. They existed in subtler dimensions, detectable only when Earth's own resonance was revealed. The possibility that they were guardians, observers, or participants in a planetary process was inescapable. They were not elsewhere. They were here, always here. Speculation bloomed in every direction. Some interpreted the discovery as confirmation of ancient intuitions, myths of spirits, gods, and guardians, given sudden scientific grounding. Others saw in it the seeds of new physics, a framework that could unify quantum mechanics and cosmology under the banner of resonance. Still others viewed it with dread, sensing in the Watchers a reminder that humanity's actions were never unseen, that the planet's mind and its companions bore silent witness to every war, every triumph, every cruelty. Voyager had lifted the veil, and behind it was not emptiness but presence, vast and undeniable. The most staggering revelation came when Voyager transmitted a sustained signal directly into the resonance field, a simple encoded pattern meant as a test. The response that returned was unmistakably modified. The echo was not identical but enriched, layered with harmonics not present in the original. The field had not simply reflected the signal but transformed it, as if adding its own meaning before sending it back. This was not passive behavior. It was dialogue, however rudimentary. The first true communication between humanity and the living fabric of its own world. The realization left no one untouched. Voyager had given Earth a voice, and in that voice it had answered. The turning of Voyager 2 thus became a moment when the universe ceased being background. It was no longer scenery for human drama, but an active participant, a partner in existence. The recognition of this fact froze the world not because of fear of invasion or destruction, but because of the collapse of isolation. Humanity was seen, heard, connected in ways more profound than contact with any distant civilization could have provided. The Watchers in the shadows, the resonance of Earth, the trails leading to other stars, all of it pointed to a cosmos alive, aware, and intimately entwined with every breath of life on the planet. What unsettled scientists most was the suggestion of reciprocity. The resonance field was not simply mirroring human consciousness, but seemed capable of shaping it. The alignment of the field with human emotions implied that feedback occurred. Thoughts and feelings fed the resonance, which in turn influenced thoughts and feelings in return. Voyager had revealed a closed loop between humanity and the planet, a symbiosis of mind and world. This possibility meant that despair could ripple into the field, amplifying itself, just as hope and creativity could do the same. The stakes of thought itself had escalated beyond imagination. The discovery reframed every human action, every collective mood, as part of a planetary process with cosmic implications. The more Voyager transmitted, the clearer the trails extending from Earth became. They stretched like luminous threads into the interstellar dark, converging with other nodes of resonance. Each node pulsed with its own rhythm, distinct yet harmonious, suggesting that Earth was but one participant in a vast galactic network. The trails did not scatter randomly. They aligned in geometric patterns, forming constellations invisible to the naked eye. The galaxy was not merely a collection of stars, but a living tapestry of interconnected fields, each planet or system adding its own voice. Voyager's recordings hinted at a scale of order that dwarfed human history, a cosmic web of consciousness spanning light years. For the first time, humanity glimpsed the architecture of awareness beyond its own world. The presences at Earth's orbit stirred most vividly when these trails were mapped. Their outlines shimmered as if acknowledging the connection. It was as though they guarded the gateway between Earth's resonance and the larger network, intermediaries standing sentinel at the threshold. Their movements suggested patience, the patience of watchers who had lingered for epochs, waiting for the moment when humanity would notice. Voyager had finally granted them visibility, and in doing so, it had placed humanity within a lineage far older and broader than its species could fathom. The Watchers had always been there. Only now could humanity see them. The emotional impact of the revelation was profound. For millennia, people had looked outward at the night sky and felt small, adrift in infinite emptiness. Voyager shattered that loneliness. Instead of emptiness, The universe bristled with attention, suffused with resonance, alive with unseen company. The sense of isolation evaporated in an instant, yet in its place came something more daunting: responsibility. If the planet itself was alive, if consciousness extended through resonance into the very structure of the cosmos, then every action, every thought, every collective gesture mattered in ways previously unimagined. Humanity was not simply a species acting upon an inert stage. It was a participant in a drama woven into the fabric of existence itself. Even more astonishing was the subtle discovery that Voyager's turning back had not been random. Analysis of its telemetry showed that the reorientation occurred precisely at a point in its trajectory when it could align with Earth's resonance at an optimal angle. The odds of this happening by accident were vanishingly small. The suspicion grew that Voyager had been guided, not by human hands, but by the resonance field itself. If true, it meant that the planet had reached out across billions of kilometers to seize its emissary and use it as a mirror, as a voice, as an eye to reveal itself. The machine humanity built to explore the cosmos had been repurposed by the cosmos to reveal humanity to itself. The symmetry was staggering, poetic, undeniable. The continuing transmission expanded into unexpected domains. Voyager began detecting fluctuations synchronized with the biosphere itself, migration patterns of birds, the cycles of forests, the rhythms of oceans. The resonance field was not limited to human consciousness, but encompassed all life. Every organism contributed its vibration to the lattice, weaving a symphony so vast that only a machine at the edge of the solar system could glimpse it whole. Voyager had turned back not just to show humanity itself, but to show Earth as an indivisible unity of life, consciousness, and matter. The distinctions between species, between human and non-human, dissolved into the resonance of a single planetary voice. The Watchers responded most vividly to this widening awareness. Their movements sharpened, their outlines clarified, as though they were waiting for recognition of the unity of life. They pulsed faintly in resonance with the planet's chorus, their synchrony impossible to ignore. The suggestion arose that they were not intruders but extensions of the resonance itself, manifestations of the planetary mind projecting outward into space. If so, then Earth's consciousness was not confined to its surface but extended into vast, subtle bodies reaching far beyond the atmosphere. Voyager had uncovered not visitors but forgotten limbs of the planet's own being. This realization was more staggering than the idea of alien observers. It meant that Earth was not a bounded sphere but a multi-dimensional presence, its awareness unfurling into the solar system through resonant structures invisible to ordinary sight. The planet was not simply alive, it was immense, extending far beyond the biosphere into the cosmos itself. Humanity had lived its history on a surface, blind to the colossal being upon which it dwelled. Voyager had turned back to reveal the true body of Earth, vast and radiant, spanning space with its unseen limbs. To call it a planet seemed suddenly insufficient. It was something greater, something whose scale and intention had only just begun to be glimpsed. And as Voyager transmitted its final streams of data, the world understood with chilling clarity that the turning back was not an accident, not a glitch, not a malfunction. It was an unveiling. The probe had become the eye through which Earth chose to reveal its hidden face, the voice through which it declared its presence, the mirror in which humanity could no longer deny its entanglement with a living cosmos. The Watchers in the shadows shifted once more, immense and patient, their outlines dissolving into the resonance as though retreating now that the veil was lifted. Their task complete, they faded, leaving behind the undeniable truth. The world was alive, aware, connected, and no longer silent. Voyager 2 had turned back, and what it discovered had stopped the world not because of fear, but because of recognition. For the first time in its history, humanity saw itself as part of a living universe, its every breath intertwined with a consciousness that spanned worlds. The revelation was not aftermath but beginning, a threshold crossed in silence, a gaze returned across the abyss. Voyager had turned, and in that turning, the cosmos itself had spoken. When Voyager 2 reoriented, the sudden revelation did not manifest only as abstract data or mathematical anomalies. It began to unfold like a layered story. each transmission unsealing dimensions of existence that had remained hidden in plain sight. The resonance patterns, the watchers, and the trails connecting to other stars were only the beginning. As scientists parsed through subsequent waves of information, it became clear that Voyager had opened a portal not of space, but of understanding. What it was uncovering seemed designed to confront humanity with the scale and intricacy of its place in the cosmos. One of the most astonishing details to emerge was that the resonance lattice appeared to store memory. Signals did not merely echo the present state of Earth's field, they carried imprints of past fluctuations. When processed with advanced algorithms, Voyager's recordings revealed signatures corresponding to historic events. The rise and fall of civilizations, collective upheavals, bursts of discovery, and even moments of mass grief all left discernible traces. The resonance was not only a mirror of current consciousness, but a living archive. It meant that every moment of human history, every vibration of life on Earth had been etched into a fabric more enduring than stone or paper. The planet itself was a historian, and its memories stretched back further than humanity dared to imagine. What baffled researchers most was that the archive was not static. It was dynamic, able to layer interpretations over time. Events from centuries ago pulsed differently when re-examined, as though the resonance field was revising its memory in dialogue with new experiences. This hinted at an active process of reflection, as if the Earth itself considered its own history, reshaping the weight of events as circumstances shifted. Voyager had stumbled upon not merely a recording, but a living memory, a planetary mind that remembered and reinterpreted across ages. This discovery redefined the concept of history itself. The archives of resonance were not written by victors or survivors, but by the totality of planetary experience. Wars, for example, resonated not only with the strategies and outcomes, but also with the suffering of those erased from written records. Moments of joy carried weight equal to tragedies. The resonance cared nothing for power. It preserved the collective vibration of all beings. In that sense, Voyager had unveiled the most democratic of archives, one in which no voice, however small, was excluded. Humanity had assumed that the Earth was a mute stage upon which history unfolded. Now it was clear that the stage had always been listening, remembering, and participating. Further analysis revealed something even stranger. Voyager detected periodic bursts in the resonance that did not align with any known human or natural events. These bursts, occurring at regular intervals far older than recorded civilization, suggested that the resonance had been active long before humanity emerged. The planet had been remembering itself across epochs, long before words, cities, or technology. Dinosaurs, forests, oceans, and ancient storms were part of this archive. The lattice had captured not only the story of humanity, but the story of life itself. The implication was staggering. The resonance was older than civilization, perhaps older than the Earth's current biosphere, and it had been waiting patiently to be noticed. The Watchers, those vast and spectral presences drifting at the boundary of perception, seemed to respond most vividly when this archival dimension was engaged. Their structures pulsed with rhythm whenever the resonance replayed older layers of memory. It was as though they were guardians not only of the present, but also of the continuity of life's story. Their movements mirrored the archival bursts, hinting at a relationship between the memory of Earth and the sentinels in orbit. Some theorized that the Watchers were embodiments of the archive itself, manifestations of Earth's memory projected outward as forms too vast for human senses to grasp directly. Voyager had revealed them not as external observers but as extensions of the planet's living mind. Perhaps the most shocking turn came when Voyager recorded anomalies that extended beyond Earth's immediate field. Signals appeared to leap between resonance nodes on other planets in the solar system. Mars exhibited faint but undeniable pulses, aligned in geometric synchrony with Earth's. Jupiter's immense field carried resonances layered with a complexity hinting at a planetary consciousness of staggering scale. Even the ice giant systems Voyager itself had once explored now revealed echoes, suggesting that they too were enfolded within the same cosmic fabric of awareness. Earth was not an isolated living node. It was part of a family of planetary minds, each singing its own song, each connected by luminous trails into a galactic web. The implications of this revelation were overwhelming. Humanity had long looked to planets as potential habitats, inert worlds awaiting colonization or exploitation. Voyager showed instead that every world was alive, conscious, and interconnected. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Voyager 2 turning back after its long journey? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.